What's going on, y'all? This is Randall Branch. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about eating more and moving more. This topic is honestly extremely important. This is a topic that I kind of gained revelation on pretty recently within the last 6 to 8 months as I decided to lose weight, coming down from 250, deciding to cut. So obviously learning that I needed to eat less than what I was eating and move more. But then after I got down to where I'm at right now, which is 190, and even honestly, once I hit 200 and I got back into like the normal range of body fat I was probably about like 17%, maybe about, like 16-17% at about 200. And understanding that now that I'm in a good body fat percentage, a good range for my height and everything, I need to start fueling for proper workouts, learning about like insulin sensitivity with like carbs and things of that nature. So I want to say it's a pretty broad topic, but today specifically I want to talk about just eating more calories and then moving more. So the big point that I want to make is a lot of people, they don't move enough. People, they start working out and they think just an hour of movement is good, but they're living sedentary lives for like the rest of the day. So like, let's say like they might work out in the morning. Let's say they work out from like 7 to 8, and then they work from 8 to 4 or 8 to 5, 9 hours. And then they get home and they sit at home all day, or after work, they just sit at home, they eat, and then they just watch Netflix or whatever. And then on top of that, their job, they're 8 to 5. They're traveling in the car, and then at work, they work a desk job. So they were really only active for an hour a day, but because they're working out, they think that they're being active. And truthfully, they're not really being active. Now, it definitely is better than just living a full 24 hours of being sedentary and not moving at all. But just an hour workout, not caring about steps, not walking the dog, nothing extra, just an hour of just strength training a day is really not a super active lifestyle. For those that are subscribed to me on Snapchat or follow me on TikTok or Instagram, you guys know I post my steps every single day. On my rest days, my recovery days that I don't work out, I get at least 15,000 steps. And on my training days, I get at least 20,000 steps. And that's on top of training 2 hours a day, twice a day on my training days. Truthfully, like at least 2 hours a day, because that's just with weights, and I also do boxing, and so I live an extremely active lifestyle. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to be extremely active, but definitely more active than just an hour of strength training 4 times a week and just living a sedentary lifestyle for like the rest of the week. So for me personally, because I'm so active, I'm able to eat a lot. I'm bringing back what's it called? I had to rename it. It was first Road to 8%, but I'm just assigned to get down to about 10% or single digits. So we're just calling it Road to Single Digits. I decided to bring that back. This whole summer, I've basically been eating at maintenance and even a slight surplus because I'm sitting at about 190 right now. So I did come up a little bit. But my metabolism is in an amazing spot. I've been eating 4,000 plus calories a day pretty much all summer. I've been extremely active, working out a lot, walking a lot, took up boxing, start running, start sprinting. So my metabolism is at I'm pretty sure it's almost as high as it was. Well, it's definitely not as high as it was when I was like 250 just because of how much weight I had. But it's probably around there because my muscle to fat ratio is definitely in a better spot right now at 190 than it was at 250. So now that my metabolism is firing and it's rapid and is working really good for me, I could cut on like 3,800 calories. I told you guys, if you guys follow me on Instagram and stuff, we were supposed to start the cut a few weeks ago, but honestly, I've just been so in enjoyment with like eating a lot of food and just eating healthy and stuff like that, eating very frequently throughout the day. So I'm officially going to start the cut. This video is going to come out today on Thursday. So I'll start the cut tomorrow for Friday. I'm going to run a 16-week cut, and I'm just going to lose a pound a week, focusing on making sure my performance is high, but also want to make sure I'm not crashing my metabolism. If you cut super fast, it's not going to be good for your metabolism. So I'm only going to cut a pound a week, a 500 calorie deficit a day. But I say all that to say my metabolism right now is in a really good spot. And it's because I got out of that deficit, number one, that deficit that I was in, that I had to be in order for me to lose 75 pounds. At my lowest weigh-in, I was 175, and at my highest, I was 250. So I had to get down 75 pounds. And obviously, my metabolism took a pretty hefty crash just from losing 75 pounds and being in a calorie deficit for about 6 months, 8 months, which is pretty taxing on the metabolism. So me walking a lot and me taking a diet break almost, I mean, I was still eating healthy, still on a diet, but just me getting out that deficit for a few months, it really, really helped my metabolism. So now I could cut calories. The lowest I'm 190. I'm going to get down to single digits for me will probably be about 175 is what I'm looking to get down to. And right now I'm at 190. So I'll lose about 15, 16 pounds over 15, 16 weeks. And the lowest I'll probably ever drop my calories would be like 34 for me to cut. I mentioned it a little bit in the community post I made a couple days ago. You know, most men and most women have very, very low maintenance calories. And it's because they don't have muscle, number one. But number two is because they're not active. They don't burn a lot of calories. In my opinion, I believe every man should do what he needs to do in order to get his maintenance to at least 3,000. I believe every man should have a maintenance of at least 3,000. Every woman about 2,200. Whether that be gaining muscle, whether it be walking more, moving more. Everybody's maintenance should be at least a respectable point to where, you're not gaining weight by just eating. Like, I don't know. It's kind of absurd to me that some guys gain weight off of like 2,800 calories. Like, your maintenance isn't high enough. In order for us to get your maintenance high enough, you need to, number one, teach your body that it needs more calories. And then number two, actually consume those calories. So how would you teach your body that it needs more calories? By moving more, by putting on muscle, and then eating more to support that active lifestyle that you now have. The main reason why I took a diet break is because I understand that there is a such thing as permacutting, and it doesn't get talked about enough. We talk about dreamer bulking and perma bulking and people putting on way too much fat, which is extremely, extremely common. But there is a such thing as permacutting as well. And when you're constantly eating less and you start at cutting on 26 and then you're cutting on 2,500 and then 2,200. Some dudes get all the way as low as like 1,800. There was times where I ate 1,800 for sure. And it's doable for a certain amount of time if need be. But if you really get your metabolism working and firing, you would never have to eat that low of calories. And I see it a lot with women too. I see a lot of women online complaining about, oh, I'm eating 1,200 calories and I can't lose weight. Number one, they're probably not really eating 1,200 calories. But let's say they are actually eating 1,200 calories. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. If they've been cutting so low, if they've been cutting just for extremely, extremely long, that their metabolism is just cooked, then yeah, it is possible. Are they really tracking 1,200? I doubt it. But it's possible because there was times where guys would talk to me and, oh, I'm eating 24, I'm eating 25, and I can't lose weight. And they weigh more than me. And I'm like, how are you 220 pounds and can't cut off of 2,500 calories? And we're talking, and they are actually tracking and telling me what they're eating and stuff. And obviously, I'm not there with them watching and meat, so they could be wrong. But I'm taking their word for it. And I asked them how long they've been cutting. They're like, yeah, I've been working on it for months, for almost a year. And I'm like, yeah, your metabolism is probably in a pretty bad spot. Especially when you start doing the indulge and then restrict type of, binge eating disorder type of thing that a lot of people do. It kind of jacks up your metabolism. So just the bigger idea of eating more and moving more. Eating to support a super active lifestyle, but first adopting that active lifestyle. How would you adopt the active lifestyle is number one, training for a good amount of time. Not just strength training for 45 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week. If you have it in your schedule, strength training for an hour and a half, 4 or 5 times a week. That would definitely be better. A lot of people, they look at weights as a totally, totally different activity than other activities, and I don't really like it. What I mean by that is, like, they'll put swimming and basketball and running and all that, badminton, whatever sport you're into, they'll put that in a box, and then they'll put weights in like a completely different box where, you can only do this for a certain amount of time. And if you do it for longer than an hour, then you're doing too much and stuff. But we wouldn't talk about that with other sports or with other activities. And all weights is an activity. Does that mean that you need to be lifting weights for 8-9 hours a day? I'm not saying that. No, that's not what that means. But it does mean that you can lift weights for an hour and a half, 2 hours if it's in your schedule and you can recover from it. So doing that as much as your body allows for you to recover, and then actually tracking your steps and working on building your steps up. I told you guys I post my steps and I do 15,000 on recovery days and 20,000 plus on training days. And sometimes people tell me, oh, I want to get there. I want to be walking 20,000 steps. But like right now they're walking 6,000, or even worse, they don't even know how much they're walking. They might be walking 4,000 or 5,000. So I tell them just start from where you're at and add on to that. If somebody's walking 8,000, the next goal should be 10,000. If somebody's walking 10,000, the next goal should be 12,000. If somebody's walking 12,000, the next goal should be 14,000, 15,000. Most people, I think the average American walks less than 4,000. So I think most people should first strive to get 6,000 and then 8th and 10 and work up like that. I know for me personally, I want to get up to walking about 22.5 or 25,000 on my training days. I still want to keep 15,000 on my rest days, but about 22.5 or 25,000 for training days. But it's not something that I was able to jump towards from when I used to just get 10,000. Like, no, I've actually worked up to 12 and to 15 and to 18 and to now 20. So it does take time. But because I train for a couple hours a day on my training days, and because I walk, even on my rest days, I walk 15,000, which is still in the super active category. So because I just adopt a super active lifestyle with training, weights, calisthenics, my steps, with running, with sprinting, with boxing, I'm always active. I can eat 4,000 calories and not gain weight, which some people think is insane. But that's just what my body requires because I worked for that. I worked on that. I got out of that crazy deficit I was in for 8 months, which was necessary. I did need to lose all that extra fat that I put on from permabulking and stuff. But now I'm in a predicament where I have a healthy body fat. I'm active and I'm giving my body the calories that it requires to be able to keep up with the demand that I'm giving it. And eventually I want my maintenance to be about 4,500. You'll see a lot of runners have high maintenances just because of how active they are. And I think more people who lift weights who aren't really into running, even though I run like once a week, I'm not a runner. I'm not running 10, 12 miles every day or every other day. I run, depending on how I feel, 5 to 10 miles once every about 7 to 10 days, right? So I'm not a runner. Weights is still my main source of activity. But we should adopt that type of mentality that the runners have. Runners, people who run, all the runners I know, their maintenance are like 4,000 plus, and they're not as tall as me. Like, they're not as big as me. I'm 6'2", and I'm 190. Most of the runners I know are about 5'7", 5'8", and like 160. And their maintenance calories are the same as mine. And it's because of how active they are. So just adopting a super active lifestyle, giving your body a reason to require calories. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, getting down to a healthy body fat to where you could actually use the carbs that you're taking and use them to properly fuel your workout. They're not getting stored as fat as often, and the body actually prefers to not store them at all, to use them as energy, which I'll talk about later on on this channel, just in general, like insulin sensitivity and why it's so important to get lean and stuff like that. But yeah, that's going to be the video, man. I didn't, with these voiceovers and stuff and me talking about this stuff, I don't necessarily plan like, okay, I'm going to go this point. I just start talking and really just start yapping. So I do apologize sometimes when I talk or when I do these voiceovers and you guys are like, this guy's all over the place. I do know I need to work on that, but I more want to just get used to just talking and just being authentic instead of sounding like a robot, like going over like a presentation. Like, I'm just having fun, just telling you guys what I've learned on the way. Like I said, man, I've gone down 75 pounds. I came up about 15 pounds just to get my metabolism back, and now I'm able to cut again. We're going to start the road to single digits. We're going to resume that, and that's going to last about 15, 16 weeks, starting Friday, first episode next week. And it's going to be fun, man. And I'm able to talk about this because I've lived through it. I've done it. I understand what it means to jack up your metabolism. I understand what it takes to rebuild your metabolism. And I understand what it takes to have a high metabolism to where you're able to eat, you're able to fuel your workouts properly, and you're able to eat a good amount of calories and not feel like you're starving every another day. So, yeah, that's where we're at right now, man. It's Randall Branch Media. We're checking out. We'll be back on Monday for another video. Hope you guys have a good one.